Ethan's hands trembled as he climbed the attic ladder, the wooden rungs groaning under his weight. The house, a 150-year-old Victorian, had been his grandmother's sanctuary for generations, but now it felt alien, cold, and watching. Behind a loose floorboard, he found a small, unmarked box. He opened it, and a single letter fell out, its paper brittle with age. The handwriting was his mother's, but the words were alien. "The house knows you. Find the truth in the walls before it finds you." His stomach clenched. This house had been his mother's last refuge, and now it was calling him. Ethan sat in the living room, the letter crumpled in his hand, the house around him feeling watchful. He remembered his grandmother's stories, that the house was old, older than the family, and that it had always been alive. But now, the house felt different, like it was breathing. A draft moved through the room, and the air grew cold. He looked at his watch. It had been 15 minutes since he left the attic, but the house seemed to have been waiting for him. The silence was heavy, like a stone in his chest, and he knew he was the first person in 150 years to hear the house speak. Ethan found a hidden room behind the wall in the living room. The door was made of thin wood, almost invisible. Inside, there was a small desk with a diary. He opened it, and the pages were filled with his grandmother's handwriting. The diary was dated 1940, the year his mother was born. His grandmother had written about a secret daughter, Maya, who was born to her and a man she met in the 1950s. Maya had been the only child the grandmother ever had, but she had been hidden from the family. The diary revealed that Maya had been born in 1940 and was the grandmother's daughter. She had been raised in the house, but the family had been ashamed of her. The grandmother had written, "Maya was my daughter, but she was too much of a burden. I had to kill her to save the family." Ethan's hands shook. He was Maya's brother, but the family had been ashamed of her and had killed her. The diary was a confession, but it was also a warning. If he found out the truth, the house would know. Ethan found a photo in the diary of his grandmother with a young woman. The woman was Maya, and she was holding a baby. Ethan's heart raced. This was his half-sister, but he had never met her. The photo was dated 1942, the year Maya was born. The house had been alive for 150 years, but the family had been hiding this truth. The house was breathing, and it was watching him with eyes that seemed to see through his soul. He knew he had to find out what happened to Maya before the house found him. Ethan realized Maya was his sister. The family had killed her 10 years ago, but the house had been alive for 150 years. The house was breathing, and it was the embodiment of the family's trauma. He had been living in the house for generations, but he was the last one. The house knew him, and it was the only one who could save him. He felt the walls closing in, and he knew he had to find a way to escape the house before it found him. The house began to react to Ethan's presence. Doors opened and closed on their own. Lights flickered, and the air grew cold. He heard a whisper in the walls, but it was his own thoughts. The house was alive, and it was watching him. He felt a pull toward the attic, where he had found the letter. He knew he had to find the truth before the house found him. The house was breathing, and it was getting stronger. Ethan spoke to his grandmother, who had been living in the house for 150 years. She had been his mother's mother, and she was the one who had hidden Maya from the family. She told him the truth. The house is the body of the first settler who died in the house 150 years ago. The family has been living in the house for generations, but the house has been alive for 150 years. We are the house, and we are the family. Ethan was shocked. He had been living in the house, but he was the last one. Ethan understood that he was the last living link to the house. The house had been alive for 150 years, but it had been silent for 10 years. The family had been living in the house, but the house had been alive. Now, with Ethan's death, the house would become a real entity. He felt the house breathing around him, and he knew he had to die to free the house. The house was alive, and it was him. The house became more alive. The walls began to move, and the house started to speak in his mind. It told him, "We are the house, and we are the family. You are the last one. When you die, we become free." Ethan felt the house growing stronger. He knew he had to die to free the house. The house was alive, and it was him. Ethan had a vision of the house as a living entity. He saw the house as a giant body, with the walls as skin, the floors as muscles, and the house breathing. He knew he was the last one. The house was alive, and it was him. He felt the house pulling him toward the attic, where he had found the letter. He had to die to free the house. Ethan stood in the attic, the letter in his hand, the house breathing around him like a living thing. He knew he had to die to free the house. The house was pulling him, and he was the last one. The house was alive, and it was him. He closed his eyes and let go of the letter, feeling the house's pull become stronger. He had to die to free the house, and he knew that when he did, the house would become a real entity, free from the family's trauma. Ethan fell to the ground, the house's breath filling his lungs. He felt the house grow stronger, and he knew he was becoming part of it. The house was alive, and it was him. He saw the house as a living entity, free from the family's trauma. He had become the house, and the house was free. The last person in the family had died, but the house had been alive for 150 years. Now, it was free. The house stood alone in the yard, the walls smooth and unbroken. It was alive, and it was free. The family had been living in the house for 150 years, but now the house was free. Ethan had died, and the house had become a real entity. The house was alive, and it was free from the family's trauma. The last person in the family had died, but the house had been alive for 150 years. Now, it was free.